Next is the opening remarks by Mr. Ronnie C. the chair of Hang Lung Group Limited and its subsidiary Hang Lung Properties Limited, both publicly listed in Hong Kong. The group expanded into mainland China in 1992, developing, owning, and managing world-class commercial complexes in key Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities. In 1986, Mr. Shan co-founded Morningside in Hong Kong, an investment group engaged in many businesses in the U.S., Western Europe, Southeast Asia, and mainland China. Since 2000, it has concentrated on the Wenzhou capital, TMT, in China and biotechnology globally. Mr. Chan actively involved with nonprofits, philanthropic endeavors, and educational organizations. As Chair Emeritus of the Asia Society and Chairman of its Hong Kong Center and co-founder and Chairman of the Center for Asian Philanthropy and Society, to name just a few, Mr. Shan is a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He serves on the governing or advisory bodies of several think tanks and universities. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ronnie C. Shan for the opening remarks.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I want to thank Kuntapana for bringing all of us together. Thai Bev is certainly very conscientious of this. I was happy to hear what Kuntapana have said. Kuntapana has been involved with the Center for Asian Philanthropy and Societies, or CAPS, almost from our beginning, and that's a number of years ago. That tells me that he and the company of which he leads are truly very responsible members of the society in Thailand and beyond. I'm also happy that some of the other speakers, such as Tony Sulvanich and as well as Shushir Lohir, are both also very active in CAMPS activities. And I hope that many who are watching and listening right now will also likewise get to know us a little better. Well, let me just address two very simple questions. The title that is for this event is Empowering Partnership for Sustainability Virtual Forum. Well, I only have two questions. The first question is, why sustainability? And the second question is, why partnership? Well, let me first address the first one, why sustainability? The economic model of which you and I are enjoying today in the past many decades have been with us for a long time. And ever since the fall of the Soviet Union around 1990, the whole world have been moving in this direction, even in some country who don't have a name of being involved, and yet they have become some of the biggest players in the economic model that is, shall I say, running the world today. Well, after many decades, of course, it predates the fall of the Soviet Union in the Western world and in other parts of the world. And so the economic model that we've been all enjoying and benefiting therefrom, I may say, don't be surprised by what I'm going to say next. Maybe a little running out of, the course is running out. In other words, something has to change. There are situations that are results of the economic model that you and I have benefited from and believe in and still do, have run into some, or rather a lot of difficulties. For example, the system has made the world increasingly environmentally not sustainable. Not just environment, even societally. Many areas of the existing system has proven itself to be unsustainable for the society. And even corporately, as corporate titans, many of you are here with us today, even corporately, our own survival, our own future may not be as sustainable as once upon a time was. I have a friend who's from the ASEAN countries, from Malaysia, of Indian origin, Chandra Naik. And he wrote a book a couple of years ago called Consumptionomics. Basically, it says that if ASEAN or Asia, including China, were to follow the economic model of the West, in particular of the United States, then the globe is no longer sustainable. There's not enough natural resources to go around. And so environmentally, it is not a sustainable situation. I always consider my generation to be the luckiest, and I'm now over 70. And my generation that grew up after World War II, we had blue skies, clean water, a lot of natural resources, and even in the society and the economy, not much debt after the Second World War debts were paid off. And the economy was growing very fast. So my generation was really a very fortunate generation. Once upon a time, I told my son almost a decade ago, I said, son, I really do not admire you. He's now 38, so he was in his late 20s when I told him this. I really do not admire your generation. Whereas I inherited a blue sky, your sky is full of smog. I inherited a sky, an ocean that is rather clean, and you and your generation inherited one that is polluted. I have enjoyed the natural resources of the world, but your generation will have many resources depleted by my generation, and so on and so forth. I grew up in a time when there's plenty of economic opportunities. Those opportunities may not be as much as when I was growing up. And so my generation is the most fortunate, but also my generation is the most selfish. And we don't even say sorry to the next generation, but that's just a fact. For example, the debt that we have piled up in the last few decades, my generation can never fully pay for it. It will be my son's generation who will have to pay for it. Societally also, I think the economic model that we've enjoyed is not sustainable. I just cite one or two issues. Wealth gap. Wealth gap is getting so big in the West and in many developing economies as well, or perhaps in particular in some developing economy. The wealth gap is a social powder keg ready to blow. So is that something that we can turn a blind eye to? The society also, everywhere, is divided by many, many things, by race, by religion, which are ancient, by wealth differential, and many, many other divisive things that are morally related that, in my opinion, are also make the society not sustainable. So as business people in the world today, in particular in Asia, I believe that the companies in which we lead may not be as sustainable, not that we are bad managers, but the society has changed, the environment has changed, such that it is a brave new world that unless you and I recognize it and change with it, we may become swept away into the dustbin of history. Today, there's no choice. It's not a matter of whether some so-called more thoughtful, better people who are worried about sustainability, and other people can go on their happy way, not worry about sustainability. No, none of us have that choice. If you run a publicly listed company, as many of us do, then the only question is, will you manage a problem before it gets too big for your company and mine? Or will you be put in a very passive position when the problem comes like a flood and you're not prepared for it? Would you like to be a leader, or would you like to be considered as a leader in sustainability? Or would you like to be seen as a follower? If you're a leader, most likely the perception is that you're more genuine. If you're a follower, people may say that you are just doing it because you have no choice. So would you like to be a leader or would you like to be their follower? I've had a discussion of that sort when Tony Sumapanich hosted Ruth and I, Dr. Ruth Shapiro and me, in Thailand in a beautiful Japanese restaurant. And I'm so thankful that people such as Tapana, such as Tony Sumapanich, such as Suchitra Lohia, we are all decided that this is an important issue for the society, for the environment, and for our own survival, that we want to be leaders in this matter. So my second question is, why partnership? Well, it's very simple. The nature of the problem that is facing us, such as the clean air, clean water, and many similar issues, be it of an environmental nature or of a societal nature, such as wealth gap and divisions in society. These are not problems that any one individual company can adequately address. Not even a single government, no matter how big it is, can in itself, by itself, address these issues. The nature of the problem is big, and the solution must also be big. It will take collaborations between government, private sector, business people like you and like myself and many of you, as well as a lot of social delivery organizations, SDOs, if you will, nonprofits, whatever you call them, in society that are doing good work. And so the nature is big, and hence the solution has to be big. The nature is big, so our thinking has to be big. For example, the works of Center for Asian Philanthropy and Society, CAPS. In our research, we have seen that in Asia, the problem is maybe the same, similar to that of the West, but the solution may be very, very different. In certain quarters in the West, for example, where I have spent a lot of time in the past, the business people try to get away from the government. We don't want the government to interfere, nor do we want to work with the government. But in Asia, we have a much more pragmatic approach to things. It is true in many, and if not most countries in Asia, that without a government, we cannot we're going to do anything. And the government in many places are quite enlightened, recognizing that they too need the private sector to work and collaborate with them. And then events such as Wenchuan earthquake, almost 20 years ago in the mainland of China, show even that big country of China that many social delivery service delivery organizations are also necessary in the total scheme of things to work together, because they were the first to reach the problematic areas of the earthquake. So here in Asia, as CAPS have determined from our research, that the effort of government cannot be neglected in most countries, not all, but in most countries. And so we as business leaders must work together with society, with many service delivery organizations, in order to address the issue of sustainability. That's why I'm happy that I, together with Dr. Ruth Shapiro, co-founded CAPS. We are an organization that do primary research. We gather data. We work with all the most of the economies in East Asia and South Asia, and we analyze them. We do not assume that which in the West are applicable in this part of the world or are necessarily better, nor do we assume that they are worse. We are very open-minded. We learn from everybody. Anyone has anything good to say, we are very happy to hear and learn. But on the other hand, we also recognize that culturally, historically, Asia is quite different from many of the Western countries. And so the way sustainability is perceived and solutions are arrived at, and we corporates, actions that we should take may at times differ from that of the West. So I'm very happy that now we have an organization called CAPS. To my knowledge, it is still perhaps the only purely research-based institution that specializes in Asian philanthropy. And we define philanthropy in a very, very broad sense, including social investments, CSR, and so forth. And we want to provide understanding to what's happening in Asia so that we don't blindly do things, either rejecting the Western model or following them. We'd like to know what is really happening on the ground in each of the economies, and we are very diverse. Every economy almost is different from one another. But there are also some commonalities that we have identified. So I'm delighted that Dr. Ruth Shapiro will be making some presentation from our primary research to tell us what the situation in this regard is in Asia and where are some of the solutions. We don't have all the solutions, but we are doing our best to identify as much solutions as possible. So I want to thank again Tapana and Tony Suampanich and Lohia and so forth that supports us. We are doing, I believe, good work. I'm of course biased, but nobody else seems to be doing what we are doing. So we welcome all of you to get to know what CAPS does. Just give Dr. Ruth Shapiro or myself an email and we'll be happy to discuss. So again, Tapana, thank you for organizing this event. I'm sure that it will be a success. It will be a contribution to Asian corporates, including many in Thailand, who will be able to hopefully through this effort do an even better job in the matter of sustainability and in partnering with government and private sector, both in the business world as well as in the service delivery organizations. Thank you.